podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
SiriusXM stock tumbles almost 10%, and now they're going to pivot away from streaming back to their core product. Are radio companies struggling with their stocks and not making enough money? Well, I think radio, we've heard this all before.
The King of Podcasts radio network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Welcome to episode 361 of the Broadcasters Podcast. This is King of Podcasts here with you. Welcoming you to the program once again. Kingofpodcasts.com is the website. SiriusXM, once again, in a struggle. That's like every radio company out there. Look, we're going to talk about SiriusXM's issues right now, and we're going to tie it into what the year in radio looks like so far for 2024. What we've dealt with overall, and listen back to some of the things I said about radio, which has been, again, nonstop. I mean, if I have to go look at how many episodes I have to bring up radio on this program, remember, it's about 60% of my content. I mean, when I need something to default talk about, radio is it. And remember, for those of you that have just caught this show, some 360 some odd episodes later, and also about to complete the sixth season of this, the sixth year of this program, starting year 7 coming up. One of the things I could tell you is that I brought this show together to talk about radio. It still comes down to the fact that I enjoy it so much. It really is part of my life, and it will never change. And I was talking to somebody the other day about, they were asking me what my work in radio was, and then, or what work in podcasting. And then I mentioned, well, I've worked in radio before. And then it all went into the same place. Like, we're just going into that part, and I just explained. And I talked about what I did to put it all together. And I mentioned the fact that I told this girl I was talking to, and I talked about where I worked in pirate radio stations, right? Illegally broadcasting. We went out over FM like everybody else, played a bunch of stuff. And the music I played, and I said that the last major radio thing I did was in 2019, where I had a friend of mine that owned a couple of radio stations. I helped to get their programming back on track. And one of them was a fledgling Spanish music station. They were playing tropical, reggaeton, bachata, etc., and running badly. And I took it over and became program director for a year. And I was still working my full-time job. And I only left because I was able to go ahead and successfully bring the station up to a certain level. I almost got it profitable. By the time it got up to a year. And at that point, a couple of months before that, my friend was already looking for someone to go ahead and lease the station on a standard licensing agreement. So he went through there and he did find a buyer. And I had the station at a very good point. And then the guy decided to go and make some significant changes to the format. Okay. And then I just dropped off because I was like, well, it's not part of my thing anymore. And I was like, I came for the transition, did it for a couple of months, dropped right out. And that was it. Done. But I had it all this way to the point. But the thing was, I got a chance to be a part of radio. And even when I was doing this program, I talked about it. Because the power of radio is still there. Radio could still be in 2025 easily a haven, a vessel for a new music discovery. When everybody talks about how hard it is to get a song viral, radio was always a place for music to go viral. Because if you think about before the streaming era, how many songs became viral because? And pick a decade, pick a year. It happened all the time. And it's because we had tastemakers out there that would help us discover the music. It wouldn't just be something where TikTok or Spotify would just put it up in our algorithm. We had people that were actually listening to the music and found something that was just out of the rut and just found something from a stack of records or a stack of CDs or a stack of tape cassettes, whatever it was. We found out about it. And then we would play it out there to the masses. And it would obviously go college radio is still the same thing. We did that. And so many songs I remember breaking before. I say it over and over. One of the songs I feel responsible for breaking early on, there's a rapper Trick Daddy, South Florida legend here, put out, was about good 5 albums that were very popular and sold really well. Well, before he became famous, I played the song goes, I'm Not Your Player. And it was a song that was on his first album. And then I remember Santana from Slip on Slide Records was on the phone with me, and he was there with Trick Daddy, and Trick Daddy did a shout out for me on the air, WOWL, FAU's radio station, and I was at 91.7 FM, and I played the song, because I was like, of the songs that he had on there, we had No Limit Records, we had Cash Money Records starting to come into play, and the music was changing. So the music we were listening to before was very high, potent, a lot of beats per minute. The real high moving, high energy, almost tribal type of sound of the bass music we used to listen to in the early 90s. And then we're here into the late 90s. And then what happened was the music changed. And the first song they tried to release as a single was a song that was more like a Luke Campbell song. Like it was more like a Two Live Crew song. It was good, but it was not what he needed to do, because he was actually trying to put that out there as the first song to hopefully transition. And hopefully like that would be the entry point for people to go ahead and listen to his music, but it wasn't that song. It was I'm Not Your Player. And then that came in. I played it. Other stations played it. And that really started his career. It was a regional hit. And then he went national. And he did great. But that was one of those things where radio obviously created the point. And Trick Daddy's career, for what it's worth, I mean, he did sell a lot of records. He sold millions of records. The first album was based on a true story. He sold 350,000 copies. Thug Matrimony, Married to the Streets, sold 144,000 copies in its first week. And the number 7 song, Let's Go, which features Ozzy Osbourne, Twisted, and Lil Jon, that was the number 7 song in the country. And Thugs R Us, which was the one that was the biggest of his run, was Thugs R Us, sold almost 2 million copies. Platinum status. Take It to the House was one of the biggest songs on the album. The lead single reached number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100. And so he had put himself out there, and also was a lot of the songs that did also perform really well in the early 2000s for him. So he's out there. And I'm glad to say that I was one of those people that actually was responsible for helping him. Not to mention, I bought all his albums. I think it was 5 albums. I bought them all. Back when we still bought albums. Radio still has a reach. Remember, AI cannot touch it. And you can have radio where AI can go and come in and maybe do certain things, but you still need the human emotional component. It still needs to be there. You can't get that. You can't take that away. It can still be a part of what this business is all about. SiriusXM, to a point, I think they've actually done a decent job, because they've given a haven for some DJs that still work. A lot of program directors. There's still a lot of people that are working over there, but SiriusXM has really kind of moved along in a couple of different directions. One of the things that really changed for them was, well, first of all, was Sirius and XM Satellite Radio, then the merger, and then Liberty Media coming in and taking a good chunk and ownership of the company. So now they're making changes right now. SiriusXM is a recent 9% drop on their 9.8% exactly, to be correct, on SiriusXM Holdings, and what their stock has gone down in this last quarter. 8.7% down as of yesterday, as I record this, down to $25.92. Steepest one-day drop since December. Now, one of the things that happened that changed now with the most recent quarterly results for SiriusXM is that they now have someone now that's going to be rolling things as executive vice president, now becoming chief operating officer, Wayne Thorson. He's assumed new duties on December 1st. He will oversee SiriusXM's project and technology functions, okay? So those aspects of the company's commercial operations, including business development, automotive, and streaming distribution. Reporting directly to the CEO, Jennifer Witz, and he was previously executive vice president and chief business officer at ADT. So Thorson says he's a longtime SiriusXM subscriber. He's always admired the platform and commitment to providing listeners with unmatched content, yada, yada, yada. And now they're going to make a switch and the shift of what they're going to be doing right now. They're going to be doing a cost-cutting drive. So that's not going to be helpful either. So let's go more into what they're actually going to be doing. Now, from the financial standpoint, there was talk about what was going to be going on with the strategy at SiriusXM, what they're going to be doing. The quarterly report, everything kind of just changed. So they've been expanding on streaming for the last 2 years. And then CTO and CPO Joe Inzerillo was interviewed about how to make SiriusXM service appealing to the typical app streaming audience. And then 24 hours later, he was pursuing other opportunities out. And Inzerillo was hired right at the beginning of the attempted streaming transition in 2022. He had just successfully created Disney's streaming offering, Disney Plus. But now they have Wayne Thorson, who comes in. He's also worked as vice president of devices and service to business development at Google, and he led partnerships for Nest, Pixel, Chromecast, Google Home, Fitbit, Google Labs, Google Fi, and the smart home ecosystem. Now, the CEO, Jennifer Witz, actually talked at the UBS conference and talked about how the app initiative for SiriusXM has not worked out as expected, and the company wants to attract a younger, cost-conscious audience, but has to recognize that it was not worth sacrificing margin for a high-churn, loyalty customer base. So they want to go ahead and focus again on their rather affluent, not so young, and super loyal listeners. They're going to go back to getting off of streaming. They're going to focus now once again on the satellite radio platform. Now, the company has made investments over the past 2 years, expanding services reach and engagement in and out of the vehicle. They're going to continue to highlight the value-added benefits of the app to core subscribers and also utilize the streaming platform for automotive distribution where beneficial. Both in support of the company's growing population of IP and satellite-enabled vehicles with 360XL. Tesla's holiday update made that inclusion. And SiriusXM's streaming solution is now integrated into Tesla's IP-enabled operating system. They're expanding their service to more than 2 million vehicles already on the road, opening up a new valuable segment of its core audience and some of the most popular vehicles in North America. Right. They're trying to go and create it so they can go and create adoption so that more cars can get SiriusXM. Because they know they need to get it in the car more than anything else. And it's not so much that people are actually listening from the app, which I guess obviously is another part that we have. Inside Radio puts out a very comprehensive piece and talks about how SiriusXM is shifting away from digital and back to satellite radio. And that's a big difference for them to go back to their core product because they need to get subscriptions back up. And remember, we talked about this not that long ago where they wanted to go ahead and start creating the streaming plan, a premium streaming plan to get things working up and going. I was like, well, let's see how that's going to work out. But the good news is because we're at the end of the year, I have clips to go ahead and support all this stuff that we're talking about here. It's funny how I have all this here and I can go back and go through everything I already talked about before when it comes to it. Because there was so much to happen this year anyways to really embody what was going on in radio and SiriusXM as in general as well. So before I get on to talk about what SiriusXM's gone through, we should go ahead and go into what the year in radio has actually brought us and why SiriusXM, making the case that while radio is also having to go ahead and continue to work on their own core product, but they're also doing the thing where they continue to try to go ahead and keep working on options and other revenue streams than working on radio itself and investing in radio. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Here's something I'll talk about with radio decline in 2024, delusioned, delisted, and drowning in debt. All the major radio companies suffering. We're hearing a lot more ads of promos and things for these radio stations themselves, taking away. But then the other idea is that, well, then these radio stations are going to continue to go and play the same load of ads without having ads that are paid for. Because they think that they're going to go ahead and replenish those ad loads, the amount of, spots that they're going to have. That they'll be able to get 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes worth of ads to fill in at some point. Maybe the ad business will turn around, but it hasn't. And they also want to go ahead and diversify and create parallel individual revenue streams. Oh, the live stream, that's a different revenue stream. The AM/FM dial, that's a different revenue stream. And that's what they always keep working on. It's been on that for years. They can't consolidate. They can't package anything. They don't want to do that. And they put such a high price tag on everything. Moving along. These radio stations can be sold off like a fire sale, and local ownership can take over. Or at least some smaller owners that could do something with it. That's what I'm hoping for. Listen, in my market right now, in West Palm Beach, I will tell you this. There are a couple of stations that are doing really well, and doing something with themselves for the market is actually helping. Let me just bring this up. Just for my own sake, I'm going to bring up Nielsen ratings. Well, I won't go into the ratings here, but actually the Nielsen ratings was from that point. But I can actually go into what the ratings are now at this point, because the truth is, it has changed quite a bit. And when I look at what's been going on in various markets, right, there's much more to it. Like, the thing is, I can go ahead and right now, and I can tell you that in my local market here, if I just go into what West Palm Beach has actually gone into right now, which is market number 49, by the way. Among the stations that are out there, Hubbard Media is not a big, large player in the space, but they occupy 4 of the top 5 stations in the market. There's only one adult contemporary station for iHeartMedia that's up there. Otherwise, the rest of iHeartMedia is down lower, okay, in this market. So you have an adult R&B station, a high AC station, and there's a couple of hot AC stations that they have in the market that are up there. And now, there's actually 3. One they call classic hits, but let's just be honest. It's all, there's the adult R&B station and 3 AC stations after that. And meanwhile, iHeartMedia has a lot of stations down in the doldrums. They're just horrible right now. They're not even run well. I'll tell you this. Now, earlier this year, WFLM, which is owned by a small operator, they had gone through things where they were building up a new station, a new R&B and hip-hop station, Current Music. Well, slowly but surely, they did have a billboard campaign. They put some other people out there, and they have grown their ratings. They were a 0.9 back in June. And this is just the last 6 months. 0.9, and they have grown themselves up to a 1.4. Significant. I mean, how many of the stations do you have that just all of a sudden worked their way up? They were 0.6, 0.6, 0.9, 1.1, 1.4. And their cume is building up 60,000 listeners on a regular basis. They're starting to go and build the market. And meantime, the station that was, standing up pretty strong against them has been dropping. So the last 3 months, WMBX, number 1 station in the market, 7.6, they're down to 6.7. They're now tied for first place. And I would be surprised that, and by January, the PBMs will go and show that MBX will drop off the number 1 list on the list right there because of the smaller market, the smaller operator coming into the space and disrupting with a fresh new format. Well, not a fresh new format, but a fresh new feel to the format because they're not doing it like everybody else. It's a bit different. And it's good. It's a well-run station. And we're seeing the same thing going on where there's going to be other changes where other stations might go and make a change now. We're going to see that soon enough. But the thing is that in this market, it's a mid-sized market, but it's doing really well. And you're seeing something happening where people are actually getting into it. Now, as for ratings in a bigger market, obviously the big national stations, you're going to have a big deal. The national top 50 right now. So you have, of the stations that are out here, sure, iHeartMedia has stations, Odyssey has stations up in that top spot, but there's some stations that also are shockingly up very high. Waterloo Media has an adult hit station in Austin, Texas, called Bob FM, KBBA. It is the 5th largest station in the country. Then you have Tegna's station, 97.1, The Fan, WBNS FM. That's also up there in the top 10. NPR's Washington, D.C. affiliate, American University, WAMU. You have WQED, NPR station in San Francisco that also does really well. University of Texas's KUT, Public News and Talk, and 90.5 FM, among others. But you just look right here and you just see where the formats are. The other thing is, a lot of old formats, a lot of adult hits, sports, talk. One Rhythmic CHR comes in at Hartford. That's an Odyssey station at WZMX. That's in the national top 50. We move farther down, there are no young formats at all. AC classic hits, AC classic hits. I'm just looking across the board. And that's it. There's a rock station, WMMR, a Beasley station, but that's a very album-oriented rock, older audience. But every station is going for older. That's it. If we look for Cume, okay, so Z100 in New York is up there. WKTU is up there. The new 102.7 is up there. And we can look, but again, these are just big market stations. This is all major market. So they have, even if the ratings are not great, the audience Cume is solid. You can't really complain about that too much. But that's what they have right now overall. So back to West Palm Beach itself. Well, actually, I'm going to go and move off of here. And I'm going to continue going back on what radio we talked about before and what we went through with all this, because it's amazing. Like, yes, there is no answer for this. At SiriusXM, what are they going to do about the fact that they want to have, they're going to start making a cost-cutting drive? Well, we had radio try to go through that. They had a talent drive that went through and a lot of talent was taken out. That was earlier this year. I'll go ahead and play back from that. Media, Bob Pittman talks about that. They're using the reach of their broadcast radio footprint to feed other parts of their business. Podcasting, events, digital radio, all of which are growth drivers for the company. 2023, iHeartMedia had $408 million in podcast revenue. Other companies like Spotify and Acast said they turn their podcast business profitable this year. Pittman said the link to radio iHeart has been in the black since entering the business. That's in podcasting. And $408 million doesn't do a dent to your interest in the $5 billion plus that you owe in debt, Bob. Now, they got it under $5 billion. Good job for you, Bob. All right. But thinking that there's going to be a dent that's going to be done from podcasting, which is, by the way, same idea as streaming. Okay. Digital. So radio, and one of the biggest companies that has podcasting, bigger than I think SiriusXM actually, as a matter of fact, but we see what's going on with iHeartRadio, iHeartMedia. They can't make enough money to go ahead and offshoot or balance out what they're losing in their major radio core product. And they continue to lose on it, and all they do is just keep picking it off. That's all they're going to do. And then I went and talked about radio regulation getting its dead end. I had this go on and play it about it. Whatever. But I'll tell you what. And I think of Air Chicks. I used to record radio stations when I used to be out in events, or I used to just want to go and listen to something. I would go ahead and record just like everybody else. Hit the recorder, hear some song I wanted to hear. I'd hear the imaging, the liners, the promos, the hosts doing their thing on the radio, entertaining us every night, every day. And I think about how much I had that also going on the car and just being enjoyed by having somebody accompanying me in the music and playing all this great music for me and for all of us, and be able to go ahead and call in for a request. Like, all this was really wonderful. And this was all before this total destruction of radio deregulation. And it was. And it continues on today. There's been no answer to any of this to give us any. Remember, we've seen so much of it going on as I've been doing this program. The record labels are not even servicing radio anymore unless it's somebody that's absolutely bona fide. It's a secondary market. I called it a flea market last year because it is. They just don't really worry about that kind of thing anymore. They just don't. And when I talk about the fact that SiriusXM right now, they're also, remember, they also spend a lot of money on talent. Alex Wagner they put on board. Alex Wagner's on board with Caller Daddy. You have the Megyn Kelly show over there. You have a lot of other shows that have been brought over. And SiriusXM put a lot of money down on talent for podcasts. How's it going to go and do? But that's the part you got to think about as well. And the thing was that Howard Stern is one of those areas where his contract's going to be coming up and all this kind of stuff's going on. The cutting drive. Will they chop off and cut from the knees an aging Howard Stern and say, well, listen, you're going to be 71 years old in January. We're not paying you again next year. We're not going to pay you again another time in 2026. We're not going to go to another 5-year contract. We can't do it. Impossible. So what happens then? I talked about that.
And the combinations of the bigger circle on TikTok's horizon on city support for...
Actually, hold on. It's this one here.
Now, SiriusXM is at a quandary. Of course, they have other programming that's on there that people are listening to. Obviously, the country, the rock music channels, the pop music, the hip-hop music channels, all those. Sports, broadcasting, play-by-play, all that's there. But then their issue was, I mean, they tried to do the route of having, like, celebrity channels. I haven't really done that well. I mean, celebrities are not going to be made available that much to do radio. And even do radio shows that are going to be like on a regular, consistent basis.
That was also when I was doing it on the road. I remember I was doing that while I was walking. I was exercising and I did that episode. It didn't sound great, but I was kind of like experimenting on that. But that was one of those things where I had a new microphone. It didn't work great. And so I did change microphones, but I haven't even done anything remote since. But that was one of those things that I did try to do, which was fun. I enjoyed it. But SiriusXM, they're going to have to worry about Howard Stern's contract. Because they have to go figure out what they're going to do in terms of the archives. If they're going to keep the archives and just keep their show going on, and then just don't pay Howard to go and do live. He's already only doing a couple days a week now anyway, on a very limited basis. So maybe now you do something where you just stop doing that, and you just kind of like move along and do something else, and just change the dynamic. And then I went through so many different things when it comes to, even for SiriusXM radio. I could even apply some of the things I said about how corporate radio can escape ads and embrace listeners with music they can control. What the box did when they set themselves up, you would have a listing of songs that were available to go and listen to. You put it on a website, you put it on an app. The next choice of songs that is coming up that's going to be played. And then the audience will determine, of the selection of songs you have there, they'll determine which songs people will want to listen to coming up after that. You do that, and then the selector, right? You automate all this. You go on the website and you set up the songs that are available. Not just the ones that you have through audience metric testing. You open it up. You take viral songs that are out there, prepare them, put them up so they can be added into the jukebox. Take it to the jukebox style. That's exactly what we're talking about here. That's exactly the concept of what the box was. All these songs that are available, what were the songs that you wanted to hear? And once it played, you put it aside. I love that idea, and I wish we could have had something like that. The box had come out, and we talked about it because unfortunately the box, which was still running in England up until summer of 2024, it finally went away for good. It had already gone away in America, but if the original option, the concept of the box was still being put out there, but then the company that was running it with other stations, they decided to go ahead and just tap it down. And so the box as it was a great format. A lot of great songs came out as a result of it, but they just stopped and just let it go. Unfortunate. There's more ideas that I put out there. You broaden the variety of songs so that we don't have a top 40 that's just pop, and for one station it's pop, for one it's hip hop, for one it's whatever. Because remember, the box, just like in those ads I just played for you, they played everything. It was what people wanted to hear. Music radio you control. Think of that concept and how well that would go off the ground. You're not adding new people to take care of this. It's a program. Like they had Jelly that was out there, 13 years ago, that was supposed to be the next thing for it and offering interactivity. Well, maybe you don't have to worry about the interactivity because obviously who's going into an app and sending a voice note or whatever it is? They're not. They'll text you if you want to do that. Send something on social media, make a comment on a social media post or a live stream. Yeah, sure. Okay, but the truth is, you want to get their feedback, you want them to matter, this is the route you do it. You take what the box used to do. I still think it's a great idea. And I'm telling you, Bob Pittman, I'm not asking for a dime on this idea, but take the selector idea, take the idea of the box and apply it to the station. Hey, regional program directors, if you listen to this program, the music directors, if you listen to this program, take my idea. At least it would be something more interesting. Because for you to go through the same metrics, look, it's like the same thing when Bob Pittman, 2 weeks ago, goes on Stephanie Rule on MSNBC at 11 o'clock at night, 11th hour. And he tries to go and keep talking about, well, you need to keep listening to my ad numbers, my numbers, my listener numbers. No. Why don't you go ahead and let your audience do the work for you? You let your listenership say, these are the songs you want to hear spinning. Why do you think they don't want to listen anymore? Is you want them to at least listen to the ads. Okay? What you can do is you can create a selector. You can help the audience take this option of music radio you control. Let them pick the songs. SiriusXM could be doing this as well. Oh my goodness, man. I mean, they have an option which is different because for them, they have like a DVR type of field. So like my brother would always listen to like BPM or Highway 16. Great stations. But if there were certain songs he didn't want to listen to, he can go ahead and, skip songs because in the car, and I think in the app as well, you can kind of skip what songs are being played. You can also kind of like work off of what's live and what's not. In a way, you can filter what songs are coming in. But now, what they also do is they already have an option of BPM and other stations where when it's new music, they help you kind of like let you choose through survey what songs are going to be played next. Imagine if they offered that kind of selection for BPM. How much better would that be? How many more new songs versus overplayed songs would be put in there? I think it would be a wonderful idea. Here's more what I said about my idea for how corporate radio, and honestly, for music radio in general, create music they could control. What the box did was they understood the power of music discovery and curation. You let viewers immerse themselves in extended stretches of uninterrupted music. Let me read that one more time. Radio stations, corporate radio stations, okay? For the ones that I've talked about on this channel right now, Cumulus, Town Square, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, Univision, Beasley, Bonneville, Cox, Hubbard, Urban One. I'm sure there are others. Alpha Media. Read this one more time. Please heed this constructive idea. You want to recapture your audience. Take this idea here. You create the power of music discovery. By the way, it doesn't even have to be new music. It can be older music. Because what about this other audience that might not know some of the songs that you might want to play? What the box did was they understood the power of music discovery and curation, letting viewers. It was great. And this particular platform charged people a premium to hear their songs. To hear it one time, 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99, whatever it was. But it was to listen to it, to watch a video. They're not even going to get to keep a download of it, but they were actually willing to get people to go ahead and buy the chance to get their song put up there, like a jukebox. That adds up, iHeartMedia. That adds up, SiriusXM. If you had a thing, even if you wanted to put it as a premium, that added up. What kind of value is that if you were able to go and give that kind of option, that kind of program out there to the masses? So they can control what's being played. That's what they want. They want a DJ to play for them. So if you don't want to have a DJ there that can actually knows how to perform and how to present, that's okay. That's fine. Then just do something else. It's not going to be that hard. You could do it. It really can. It's not that hard. And I wish these radio stations would go ahead and take my idea here. Now, we talked about Call Her Daddy and that coming in, and where does Howard Stern stand in all this? So SiriusXM and Pandora, remember, they've created a new podcast studio in Los Angeles, all this stuff going on. iHeartMedia is doing the same thing. Like, all right, fine, But they're putting all this money into like the whole visual presentation of podcasts. So they've been putting money on streaming, as we said, money on streaming. But look at some of the things they kind of put themselves into, the quandaries they got themselves stuck into. There's been a lot more talk about that. She's much more mainstream, much more placating towards celebrities, forming into a more mainstream program because she already has a built-up audience, already has a follower set, and now that she's going to get more money coming off of SiriusXM, the way they market and produce her and promote her, and what will they be doing with her? Because the thing is now is that with all these new shows that are coming up, Alex Cooper, if SiriusXM wants to continue to have celebrities or musicians or stars, there's that kind of the press run that goes along. Who's to say that, Howard Stern used to be the person that would go ahead and get these interviews. Who's to say that, SiriusXM's not going to go ahead and continue to go along with Howard? They can just give the interviews to Alex Cooper or to whoever else they have on. Now, keep this in mind too. We already know that Howard got a bit of the snub because of the interviews that were going on out there. And SiriusXM was given the offer to interview the vice president and presidential candidate for 2024, Kamala Harris. Alex Cooper did the first interview. Of the major interviews that were done on podcasts, Alex Cooper. By the way, I said Alex Wagner. I am sorry, Alex. That was a mistake. I was going to say Cooper, but I don't know why I didn't think that. But I was not reading it in front of me. That's Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy podcast. And what does that mean for Howard? Howard was given the back seat. Older, out of touch. What else? So SiriusXM now is in a quandary. This week, they decided to go ahead and make a big acquisition. Much like when Joe Rogan was given a big deal to go to Spotify, SiriusXM has signed a multi-year deal for Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast and her network of shows under the Unwell Network that will give the satellite radio company the exclusive right to sell ads on the audio and video versions of her show, as well as bonus content and events. The agreement, now, by the way, so $100 million for all this right here over the next 3 years. And that was August 25th when I did that episode. So SiriusXM, serious money, and now they're going to go cost-cutting drive now at the end of the year. So the investment in streaming has not paid off. So you got to ask yourself, what comes next? What are they going to do? What do you change now as a result of all this? I don't know, but like SiriusXM is in a problem right now, and they have no answer for this yet. Now, SiriusXM was trying to make a dent into streaming, right? That's what they were doing. But then also radio was trying to go and look into the impact of streaming that was being done by radio, that radio is being affected by. I talked about that on episodes in the fall. I still hold on to radio as being a medium that can still withstand this digital disruption. And do you understand why I do this? The fact is that radio has certain attributes that distinguish it from anything that can be done with a computer AI. Because radio, unlike writing words on a page and writing a 500-word story, somebody communicating and engaging with listeners on the radio with talent, with emotion, with passion, with understanding, with knowing how to keep an audience engaged. However you're going to do that, with all five senses. Make them feel, make them sense all different kinds of emotions, especially to give them happiness. Radio, under a different management, will succeed. It's already being proven now by smaller radio stations out there and some of our public radio counterparts. It's taking back the freeform radio model that we had back in the 60s and 70s. It's a renaissance. It's not that big, but it's out there. And because we are in a streaming society, you can listen to those stations out there. We've talked about those stations back in 2023. We talked about the public radio stations that had decided to go in that route. KCRW, I think, is one of those, and KEXP. And forget some of the others. But like I said, all that was going on. And what an amazing time. But radio, they still have a role in all this. But these companies, they don't want to be active. They want to play a passive role in everything, take whatever money they can get off of it, and move along. And it's like, if they're going to bring anything on board in terms of content, they're just going to go and acquire somebody else. They're not building anything for themselves organically. They'd rather just buy it. And what good is that? If there's one thing that still continues today, even though I bitch and moan and complain about all these major studios and companies that own all the streaming, right? Disney and Netflix and Apple TV Plus and Hulu, they're all competing with each other. So there is competition among those, and that's good for us. I mean, for the fact of the matter is, remember all the money they were spending on content in the first place. They're still spending money on content. They're just spending more money on live sports. They're deviating some of their scripted content. They're not putting out as much as they used to anymore. They have to. But also at the detriment of the networks that they own and some of the linear content that they had before that they let it suffer and go by the wayside. That does suck. But at least what they're doing is there's competition amongst them. Right. Because even we know that if there's the right content's on a linear platform, it performs. Look, the Super Bowl is still going to be running on Fox this year, I believe it is. And they're going to do just fine. They're going to get 100 million plus people to watch it on TV. They might stream it on Fox Sports. They might stream it from somewhere else. But no matter what, the initial broadcast will be on television. It'll be on your regular cable TV, just like you normally watch before, like it has always been for years. So imagine that. It still has to be, they're not going to get the biggest event of the year next month. It's still going to be done on traditional television, linear television, and will be above and beyond the highest rated program of the year. There's a way to go and stop the decline. They can stop the bleeding, but they need to pay attention to what's going on and realize they don't have time to fool around anymore. These corporate radio companies, they need to stop dicking around and start doing things. Start making changes. And I've made solutions. I've given you ideas out there. I'm not asking for anything in return. If I could program one of those, I'll show you how to do it. I did it. 2019, I got a chance to go and program a radio station. And I got that station back to being financially solvent. We've talked about that. If I can do it, okay, menial king of podcasts here, doing my program here, moving along, if I could do it, imagine what radio could do for themselves. But there's ongoing challenges anyway. Job cuts, audience shifts, evolving technology continues along here. And SiriusXM already has proven they're going to have to go by the same route. Lee Jacobs, who is Executive Vice President of Research for New Voodoo, says that he suspects top 40 and alternative rock stations will get the biggest lift, but there are also unexpected outcomes when ratings methodologies are revised. So in their survey, while commercials are often the one thing that people complain about the most, the research found that among radio listeners, it's the 8th biggest turnoff to them. And a top 10 list of tune-out catalysts. The biggest factor that was in here are these catalysts, too many bad songs. And bad songs can be songs that are burnt out. They've already listened to them over and over. 43% is talking about things that don't interest me, which every host has to do right now because they're talking about gossip or other things that they don't care about. Because there's such a filter right now among what radio stations are allowing to put out there. They have to keep it saccharine and keep it safe, keep it within boundaries. They're not allowed to have any DJs or any talent that will go ahead and stretch those boundaries out for fear that they think the FCC is going to fine them. But by not being groundbreaking, but not being cutting edge anymore, they're not allowing radio to go ahead and be a trendsetter. Because that's what it was. It was a tastemaker, a trendsetter. It ruled. We lead while others follow. That's what radio used to do. And they stopped doing it for whatever reason. And they're making changes to the PPM format so that if you count 3 minutes, that counts as an hour towards a program. Things like that. It's all bullshit. It doesn't make any change to the fact that radio and SiriusXM as well, those two stats that we mentioned right there for New Voodoo research, that applies as well to SiriusXM satellite radio. Burnt out songs and talk about things people don't want to listen to, and hear other talent talk about topics they don't want to hear about, and music they want to keep being pushed down their throat over and over again because they feel like they can't play anything else outside of the gamut. There's a certain limited amount playlist, a very tight playlist, and the wrong songs are in there. So Sean Ross makes the point about that broadcasters should consider how to not just better credit existing listening, but create more usage. Yeah, more listening time. Correct. To view that as an unattainable goal is to conform outsiders' view of radio as a thing once listened to until something better came along. But you know why there's only 3 minutes being considered, which is 3 minutes that might be for one song they might listen to. Because how often are you turning on to a radio station and there's a big old commercial break, a spot load of 10 minutes of ads? Who's going to sit through that? Right. I mean, Bob Pittman, his interview with Stephanie Rule, he wants to continue to talk about where he needs advertising out there. The advertising is flat. It's not entertaining. It's boring. It's mundane. And you're also running it all back to back to back to back like that. And That's all people can listen to. Like, as a guarantee, you have a longer run of a commercial break than you'll have of any song that you play. That's it. And that's the part, what's the entertainment value? 20 some odd hours, 20 some odd minutes or 25 minutes of commercials within to go through that. Like, who wants to go through that? But it's too much to be put out there, but that's all they're doing. Let me break down the formula. So when you look at the songs that are listed on Spotify or Apple, or YouTube if you want to go and use that chart, you'll see that a trajectory of top songs that on average, it takes about 2 weeks from the time a song is released on streaming for it to reach the Spotify top 10. Meanwhile, it takes nearly 3 months for a hit song to reach the top 10 on radio. And once on the top radio chart, a song generally has serious staying power. The average top 10 radio hit remains on the Billboard chart for 26 weeks. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and take a look at what the current SiriusXM Hits 1 chart is, right? And just see what they have in terms of what their weekend countdown is, their top 30. Well, I mean, I can look for that right now, and I can tell you what it is at this current moment, what their current song list is. So I'll give you right now, there's a website called xmplaylist.com, and it offers what the current songs right now in the last 30 days, the most popular songs that are being played right now on SiriusXM. So currently, Taste, Sabrina Carpenter, That Was a Smile, Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, APT, Rose, Bruno Mars, That's So True, Gracie Abrams. In the streaming era, yes, those songs are all right. And also, when you're talking about like what other stations around the world are playing, in Europe, in other markets overseas, English speaking, you see what's coming up here. Stargazing, Disease, Lady Gaga, Pink Pony Club, Chaperone, I'm Not Okay, Jelly Roll, Dancing to Flames, The Weeknd, Eagle Halsey, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, Taylor Swift, Apple, Charlie XCX. But at least you're seeing certain songs are being putting in here, and they are still current. They're also being played because they are part of the current mix of songs that are streaming well. Like right now, radio's not playing I'm Okay, It's Okay, I'm Okay, Tate McRae, or Mantra by Jenny. And, they don't go into that route. Hell, Miss Johnson with Jack Harlow, came a new song came out. Good News Shabuzi came out. Carry You Home, Alex Warren. Khalid with Heat Stroke. These are songs that are getting added now, right? Touch by Cat's Eye. Diet Pepsi, Addison Rae. Sailor Song, Gigi Perez. These songs are not being played by radio. If they are, enterprise radio are very few, okay? But like I'm looking at the list right now for SiriusXM of their most heard songs. It's pretty good. Like it's the songs that have been overplayed. They get played less, which is the way it's supposed to be. And that's good. So like, Please, 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 that's down lower in the list. Espresso's also down lower in the list. Fine. But it's like, they at least do something where they have their songs being played and they're playing it less and less. So that's fine. Do that. You don't need to go to the other route of going what you're doing right now to make whatever music you have. That's fine. There's a TikTok radio. Like TikTok radio is also another thing where you get all these different different music that's out there as well, and you're getting to hear it. So, Genie by the Cooks and Loathing the Band, or Anaconda, or Bizcochito by Rosalia, or Yes and all this. Like they're playing songs that are just being viral. Forever Young, Alphaville, Fiend, Travis Scott, Playboi Carti. Like there's songs that are being played across that are now becoming viral, and they go through that route, which is pretty good. I mentioned BPM for EDM music, and their current list right now, they play a lot of new music, all right? There's Renegade, Boiler Voost, Breathwork, Sunburn, there's La Musa, there's Dirty Pleasures, Purple Disco Machine, there's Promised Land, Leo Foss, Joe Smooth, We Are the People, Empire of the Sun, FKA Twigs with US Sexua, but like all these songs are all pretty much new. Body Talk, Alaka, Clementine Douglas, and so many others. And it's like very important to go across here and just realize, man, there is so much music out there we can go into and really enjoy. But people don't really realize what's going on here. So there you go. But that's the thing where SiriusXM, at least they follow along with their audience and they give you something a little bit different. But they're also doing it because they're also charging a price. Like that's part baked into the cake of why people are buying. Because if free radio did the same thing, they cannot charge the kind of price. And for whatever reason, I don't know, there's something that should be considered about what radio could do to make themselves more valuable compared to SiriusXM. SiriusXM, at least with their work, they actually put value. They put DJs in front of on the shows. Very polished and very seasoned DJs, right? The music is well curated. They also don't go across over the top with commercials. Some of them are commercial free, or many of them are commercial free, as a matter of fact. And they're doing it because they're showing the value of what the music is. And if people are willing to go and buy $6, $7 a month, up to $20 a month for their content, they are. They're doing it just like streaming. So radio needs to go and show themselves, not just to be a cheap player and not care. Like, where's the attention to detail, the effort behind it? Why are they missing right there? They're not doing anything about it. And I think that's crucial for them to go and succeed. But SiriusXM at least does that. There was so much I said about the radio new challenges, and I put so much out there. I got more to go and play real quick, just to give you the context. So as we've talked about on the program, actually that's on journalism, so we're not going to play that part. But moving along here, I talked about corporate media offering a lump of Christmas coal to their stations. Well, actually, that's for corporate media, excuse me. But we're getting back to radio, right? But now we already talked about what I talked about when it came to radio itself and what Bob Pittman had said. So we're at current day. But that's what the year of radio was. And everything that we're going to try to do to get things right off the ground, it's just been not there. And they're missing out on what they're doing. But, you know, I'm hoping some things will happen where new music discovery will help out with radio. Like, one of the things that was kind of promising when I saw that was there was holistic cross-media measurement from Nielsen and TikTok. And this is a story I didn't bring up last week, but Nielsen's partnering with TikTok to unlock a cross-media view of ad campaign performance that includes TikTok in the U.S. And it enables cross-media measurement so that advertisers and agencies can compare ad performance on TikTok across all screens. And then buyers can build more effective media plans, connect with the right audience, and improve return on media investment. So that was pretty cool. But that's Nielsen doing it for that. Maybe something can be done like that for radio, where they can learn from what TikTok does for advertising and maybe apply it to radio. Because for advertising on TikTok, it's ads or like affiliate campaigns, but it's all like somewhat embedded within the TikTok format of all these creators. Or if the ads are on there, they're quick, 5, 10, 30 seconds out. And they're engaging. They are very solid. Especially the ones they put at the very beginning when you open up a TikTok For You page. They are strong. Very strong. A couple more stories I want to bring up and we'll wrap things up. Warner Brothers Discovery is going to now spin off CNN. And they're having a new corporate structure. Remember, we heard the same thing here when it came to what NBC and NBC Universal and Comcast spinning off all their cable networks to do that. So they decided to go into that route. So CNBC, MSNBC pushed off. They decided to go that route. Oh, by the way, iHeartRadio also launched a revised radio app. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, but I'll go ahead and take a look at it and see if there's something worth going to talk about. But according to Warner Bros. Discovery, this restructuring was not a spinoff of cable assets like Comcast, but can have the same effect. Warner Brothers Discovery said they will merge the unit that currently houses Max and Discovery Plus, as well as HBO, with another division that will include Warner Brothers movie and TV production operations. And the streaming and studios unit will sit alongside the legacy cable unit, which is all the networks. The changes will be made effect by mid-2025, but again, CNN would be pushed off to the side as a standalone, which means it could be put out there to be sold. Just saying, that could very well be possible. Another story I saw from Newman Lab about predictions of journalism, about public media reconciling its past with its present. Kristen Mueller wrote about this, and she says that civic leaders, educators, and artists and scientists of all political stripes need to convene the modern-day equivalent of the Carnegie Commission to reimagine a new network media space accessible to all, to serve the informational and educational needs of both individuals and communities. Preserving public broadcasting in its current form is not an option. Let's hold hands together and leap. Listen, if you're going to do anything when it comes to NPR, listen, you want to keep the podcasting division alive? Let them be standalone. Let them be standalone. Let the stations, the FM stations, give it back to the owners. Give it back to the people to be able to operate stations on those channels. And don't even worry about the whole distinction of like what stations have to be programming above, FM 92 point whatever. Like the frequency modulation, just keep it wide open. Wide open now. Don't even worry about it. SEC could take some of these arcane laws and just drop them. And just do that. And let new stations come onto the dial, and let's see what happens with those. And as for public broadcasting, well, you know what? You want to create an option like a BBC or a CBC? I'm all in for that. I like the idea. Let's do it. But who knows what's going to happen to NPR, PBS down the line. We know there's a new administration coming in. They're obviously going to make changes. We'll wait and see what that's going to be. Now, finally, I want to take from a consultant here, Joel Robb. Ask him about his hopes for the radio industry in 2025. Real quick, he says he wants more locally focused radio, fewer push weeks for number one songs, see a female artist of color breakthrough, fewer duets, more Americana-type country acts like Zach Bryan and Tyler Childers break through country radio, wants more passion for the music overall from listeners, and hear air talent share more of themselves on the radio, companies that own radio stations to invest more in their product, hear shorter spot sets, have the NAB or other organizations do some marketing for the category of broadcast radio, see actual radios be marketed and sold, programmers trying new formats, and see every radio employee earn a living wage. Wow, Joel, that's a real fantasy land you're talking about right there. I don't know how you're going to get all that coming. How you think that can actually be possible? But hey, we can all dream. We can all hope that radio can go and get out there. Hell, I got friends of mine that are on the beach right now. I'd love to see them go and get themselves off the ground. I won't name names. Should be a lot more work out there. Radio just needs some new people to go ahead and just change things up. And SiriusXM, hey man, good on you. Now you're going to go do what radio does. I hope you don't do too much to kind of mess up with your whole setup. Anyway, come back for another Broadcasters podcast. Content is king, and to control your content is in your hands.